Hi, I'm DeeDee.
Hi, I'm Angela.
And this is the Formidable Widow Podcast.
All right, DeeDee. So everybody wants to know who we are, so
Yes,
tell me about
I
yourself.
am a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force my entire life.
Go Navy.
Yes, I was born in Mississippi, never lived there. Left as a newborn, 2-month-older. And I moved from Washington State. I've lived all over the country. I lived in Germany for 3 years. What else? I have one daughter. Her name is Sierra. I have 3 grandsons. 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. Caleb, Cannon, and Shiloh.
And what do you do?
I am a personal stylist. I've been a personal stylist for Nordstrom since 1992.
Oh, wow.
1992 to 2020, 30 years.
Okay. And then since you became a stylist with Nordstrom, you have now since branched into...
Yes, I have started my own career, my own business, not career. I'm a personal stylist, concierge. My business name is Look Live Stylish, and I am based here in the Northern Virginia, the DMV. Angela, tell me about yourself.
I'm Angela, and I am 45. I have 3 girls, Olivia, Sophia, and Sage. I call them OSS or SOS, depending on the time of day. And I work for the federal government, and I'm also a life coach, a holistic life coach for high-performing women.
Yes.
And and I'm also from the DMV area.
How I met my husband. My husband's name was John, also. So I met John, his first duty assignment out of college. Yeah, he was commissioned officer in North Carolina A&T. And he was supposed to go to Germany, and he changed assignments and wound up in Washington State. And we met out.
Out where? Where?
Yes, I had just turned 21. He was actually probably the first time I had a drink out.
Oh, wow. With John?
Yes. No.
Oh.
I told you it's a long story.
Oh.
Yes. John was actually out with somebody else. Yes. I went out with a girlfriend.
Okay.
She wound up dating his roommate.
Okay.
And John said, tell me about your friend that you were with later on. And I remember I said, I don't do Army. Yes. And I said, he's in the Army. I said, I don't do Army, guys. Yes. And so, long story short, yeah, she told me he was an officer. We wanted to have visited him, loved how his apartment was so neatly groomed, the OCD part, just like me. And we started dating after that.
Awesome.
Yeah. I know, that's a longer story. That's kind of choppy. That's why I'm like, it's more to it. That's why I'm like, it's not just like, boom, like we were on a date and jumped the broom.
Yeah. No,
yes.
Yeah.
How about you, Angela?
So I met Tommy when I was looking for a home. So his best friend at the time was a real estate agent, and he was taking me around in his car, and it was taking me a long time to find a place. And I think 3 weeks in, he just said, hey, I think I know someone that I'd like to introduce you to. And I thought, oh, okay, nothing. And so it was through the church we all went to. There was a banquet, and we were all going to meet at his home. And I went to his house, and he came down the stairs, and it was this really cheesy moment. Like the cheesy
slow motion.
Yeah, it was like
you like you knew it was
I knew right away. Like he came down in a cheesy suit, like a
really
blue,
cheesy.
Yeah, like bluish gray suit with sunglasses, and he was inside.
And he thought he was Dexter.
That's totally Tommy.
Oh my
But
gosh.
beyond that, he was just tall, dazzling smile, and I just thought, wow. And we hit it off. And I knew he was the one because when the night was over, he said, I really like you, but can I contact you in January? And it was like October, and I was like, why? And I was like, because I promised God that I was just going to like set time aside just to kind of get to know myself and spend time with God. And then I was like, yeah, you can call me in January, no problem. So yeah, the rest is, he called me in January, and the rest is history.
And what was the sign? What did Tommy feel when he knew something was different? Something was going on?
So it was Memorial Day weekend, and we took the kids to see Rolling Thunder in Fairfax. And we were watching them go by, and he just kept asking me, he said, Angela, do you smell something? Like, I smell gas. And I'm thinking, no, it's not gas. Maybe it's the motorcycles. And he's like, no, it's not it. And it became more and more intense, and he felt lightheaded, and he felt like things were shaking around him. And so he just said, let's go home. And I said, yeah, no problem. I thought maybe he's dehydrated, and just needs to relax, because we were out in the sun. We get back, I'm dealing with the kids. He goes to his office, and then he comes back out like 30 minutes later, and he says, I'm going to drive myself to the emergency room. And when they say they're going to go to the emergency room as an African-American man,
yes,
it's pretty serious.
Right,
so
yes.
I thought, oh, okay, sure. So he drove himself, and then I get a call, and I remember looking at the cell phone, and it was like 7:10 in the evening. And I distinctly remember feeling this, your life is about to change after this.
And so the call from him, or
the call from him?
Yes,
because I could see it was him calling me, and I thought, okay.
So, he was still there.
Yeah, he was up
there.
So he calls me, and he's like, "Hey." Well, actually, he didn't say "hey." He's
right.
Like, "Yo." That's when I know. He's like,
"There's a story. There's
like,
something.
What is happening? Like
right.
something crazy." He's like, "Yo." I said, "What's going on?" He's like, "Man." He's like, They found something on my brain. I was like, what? Because first of all, I thought you were going in there. I'm imagining him
a random routine.
Yeah, routine,
yes.
and getting some liquids. And he's like, they gave me an MRI, and the doctor came in, and he said, it's always the good ones. And I was like, what is going on? I had no reference. And within 24 hours, he was having emergency brain surgery, and next thing we know, he has glioblastoma, stage 4.
Yes.
And that was like life never was.
When was that? When was that? What year?
May 2019.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And
Yes.
How old were you guys when you guys got married?
I was 25. He was 28. So we were married at that point 14 years. Yeah. So,
about to celebrate your 15.
15, yeah.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah, that's kind of... Yeah, and that's what I think that's the thing that people don't understand. Not after they died, it's just that heartbreak at the beginning.
Oh,
yes. And for me, it was, we taught marriage for the past 5 years at our church. And every Sunday, John loved brunch. And I'm not a brunch and breakfast eater, so we always would tag, like, let's make sure I can have dinner and then you can have brunch. That in between.
Compromise.
So, yes, compromise, like right at the end of brunch, so I can literally have dinner and allow it. But I'm like, so we always did our regular routine. Would always go to Ozzy's at that time, and I'm the natural talker, so I'm like, I go, am I like to really talk? I said, why is I'm usually my plate's still not. I haven't eaten, and John. He was his plate was still full, and I was like, and he's just sitting there. I go, what's up with the food? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I'm hungry. He said, I know I'm hungry. He says, my brain. He was dying to get there. He's like, I gotta get to brunch.
Yeah.
Second Sunday after church, same thing. He's like, I don't know what's going on. He's like, what are you feeling? And he's like, I don't know. It's just something sitting right here, like. I said, is it a knot? I said, it's like indigestion. I said, he's like, I don't know, just something is there. By the third Sunday, he's like, I got to get checked.
Yeah.
And so that was April 2020. It was March. He was still working. Yeah, so fast rewind, we didn't talk about it. So John, my husband was Army Colonel, retired Army Colonel, second career on the Hill. For the architect of the Capitol, and so when it was February. We had just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary. Did a couple of massages at Salamander that February. By March, everybody was coming. We did the baby sprinkle for my second grandchild. By March, everyone was coming home. So that was when the world stopped.
Yeah.
And I remember him bring. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, you're going to come home. You're going to be home all the time? I And he's like, yeah, it looks like the whale. He goes, oh, no, they said 3 weeks. So that was mid-March. And then by then, yeah, he went to get checked in April. No, went to get checked in February, and they said his doctor said, same thing. He's like, I'm just gonna go check. He's like, they're like, well, everything's changing, John. We can't. It's a regular GI doctor. He's like, we don't know if we can get you in. He's like, no, I need to get checked. And so he went in, and they told him it was acid reflux. And they're like, yeah, you just have acid reflux. Sent him home with a prescription. I said, what did they say? He's like, they think it's just advanced acid reflux. Took the medicine. He's like, there's something else, not acid. He said, there's more. He said, I need an endoscopy. And got the endoscopy. That was April 8th, 2020. That was the endoscopy, because I had to bring him. And I was like, oh, I said, it was during the first time when they were checking your temperature. Remember the whole checklist? Do you have a sore throat? And it was the first appointment for that. And I was like, they're like, well, you can't come back because everything is we're being cautious with this COVID.
Right.
They're like, we'll call you when we'll bring him down once his procedure's done. So I'm running to find the normal toilet tissue when everyone's looking for toilet tissue and paper towels. And so they called me, but this when they said they were going to bring him down. This time they said, can you come up? And I'm like, they just told me they were concerned about COVID. Why am I coming up? But went to go see. I said, oh, he's out of his procedure. They're like, yeah. And I went, and John was. I remember him. He's laughing because he says, oh, that was a good sleep. He's like, oh, I'm sure I have some kind of bacteria. He says, I'm sure they're going to send me home of an antibiotic. So his GI doctor said. Again, he sat with us. He had that look before. Now he doesn't have a mask on. Everybody was concerned about wearing masks, and I couldn't, so he doesn't have a mask on. And he's like, I said, what's, he's like, yeah, we found a mask. That's the only thing I remember. He has a mask. I go, a mask? What do you mean, mask what? He's like, yeah, I hit a mask or something. And he's like, we need to rule out that it's not cancer. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, after that, we just went running. We had to go find didn't know what oh my gosh, what are they called? The cancer doctors. Oncologists, thank you.
Oncologists, yeah.
Yes.
We try to suppress that away from our
know,
minds.
literally. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was like, yes, he's like, you need to find an oncologist. We need to do a CAT scan, make sure it hasn't spread. And we just went running. Yeah. And I just remember the next, we were supposed to get the results from the CAT scan. And I'm like, did we get the results back? They're like, no one had, John said, they don't want to give me bad news on Good Friday. And I'm like, no news is good news. I'm like, no news is good news. He's like, no, we haven't heard from them. It's like 3 p.m. He said, they don't want to give me bad news on Good Friday. And so I wind up calling, and because I'm like, I said, is anything spread? They're like, no, nothing spread. We checked his lymph nodes. But the difference of us, we thought, because he was, then we had to meet his general surgeon that's when everyone was doing Zoom. We didn't see him in person. Mm-hmm. And we met his general surgeon, and he went over the whole thing about, he has stomach cancer. Mm. And I'm like, how does this happen? And he's like, we might have to remove his stomach. I'm like, how does someone live without a stomach? Yeah. And, sorry. And then, yes, and so for John, so after that, we met the oncologist. He gave me the studies of how they're like, we caught it early. He's stage 3. And he's like, he says, the study says you do chemo, then the surgery. So chemo, surgery, then chemo was the only bulletproof to knock it out. And so, Angela, how was tell me more about it's going to go into a whole, what was hearing the news that he...
So I immediately I went into denial. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. I literally told the doctor, I think you have the wrong chart. Yep. I said, maybe you got the different clients or your patients mixed up, because mm-hmm. this is my husband. He's 42. He's strong. He's, lifting weights. He's boxing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's going on? And he just casually said, no, this is his chart and it's stage 4. And I thought, like, we're stage 0 through 3.
Right.
How did we get to 4? Right. So, and that's when I just paused and just was like, I can't believe we're here. And they had to do like a MRI, right, where you go through that little cylinder thing. And I remember taking Tommy there to the Charlotte Cancer Center, and he got undressed,
which is right here.
I was looking at it when I came to the studio, and I was like, I just know this place way too much.
Yes.
And he got in there, and he just started tearing, and he was just like, I can't believe I'm here. And I think that those are the things that people don't talk about, like, how did I get here? How am I getting here, going in to get an MRI of my brain? And then the crazy thing with glioblastoma is the treatment, you wear this horrific looking mask that looks like the Jason mask from, like, is it Jason or Michael?
I think so, but
the horror mask.
I see the mask in
it's like a hockey mask.
To sleep in?
Like but you have to put it on your head to go through the MRI.
Oh, the MRI part. Okay, gotcha.
And it's just this thing, and it has all these little holes, and it's really tight on their head, and they have to wear it so it protects other parts and exposes the brain. It's just...
So he got the news first, though.
No, we were together.
Well, when he drove there.
Yes. They said they found something.
Right.
And
then you had to go and tell them.
We got the formal,
scans.
And then when the oncologist came in, I had this visceral reaction, like, don't even come in here. Like, I saw the thing and said, and I'm
that's
just
why
like,
I went black, couldn't even say the name.
Yeah.
I was like, what are they called?
Why are you here?
Yes.
Why are you here? And he's like, well, we're just trying to see. But then when I talked to him later, it was Dr. Phillips. He was like, I knew it was cancer, but we all deal with people differently because we can tell when you're not ready to receive. And I was like, I wasn't ready to receive you because you had oncologist on there. I'm not ready to
We know that. There's no other reason that oncologists do.
Exactly.
It's like, why
are you here?
It's like,
what about you?
And no, I skipped to step 2 when you mentioned that. It's because it's the emotion, right? I've been like, yes, we heard, less cancer, right?
Yeah.
It's like, let's rule out cancer, the mass, and we walked out together. We sat in the car, and actually, I was doing all the questions, even with his GI doctor. I kept saying, what does that mean? John was just, as soon as he heard cancer, he didn't say a word.
Really?
He's like, we need to rule out cancer. He just paused. He's like, he didn't say anything. We went down the elevator in silence.
Do you think he knew?
No, because he's like, John, in fact, it was the month before, and he was training for a fitness competition. Yeah. He had just put on all this muscle. He was always lean. John was 6'3", 180 pounds. He was always naturally lean. So he was the opposite, always trying to put on weight, wanted muscle. So eating was big for him. He did put it so he wouldn't lose weight. But that was his goal. He put on his vision board. He did a whole vision. He says, I want to do this fitness competition it was 56, and he waited a year. He says, by 57, I want to do this fitness competition. And he got actually in his 50s, he just got really focused on like fitness and making sure. He goes, I need to live here long, be here.
That was weird.
He's like, I need to be here long, and I was like, all right. And the month January, beginning of the year, I remember he started feeling bad in February. I remember him standing in front on the kitchen island, and looking through his chart. He started finding all these professional, like, check your fat, your body, every little thing about your body, and he's looking at the chart, and he's like, I go, what are you studying? He's like, okay, I'm looking at my vitals. Yeah, that looks good. He goes, yeah. He says, it looks good. He's like, and I said, that's the guilty part for me, even today, because I remember saying, I said, John, because he got so obsessed about his body, and I said, John, mind you, I was 23 when we got married, and John was about to turn 27. We're about almost 4 years apart. But I said, John, people can have the best things going on in these charts, but they can still get cancer.
Yeah.
All right. And I just remember saying that out loud. I said, yes. And he's like, why would you say that? I was like, it's because,
That's interesting, because I had the same kind of conversation with Tommy, and I think it's because when you're the person fighting the disease, I think you're fighting, like, you're probably more in denial and then more in just like, I'm going to win. And for me, I was like, okay, well, we need to kind of do some research. Like, this is like, for glioblastoma, it's like a 5% chance of living. And, so I feel like when I would talk about the cancer, he would be like, no, I'm going to fight this. I'm not going anywhere.
Yes. John's was keep the faith.
Yeah.
He was telling everyone keep it. We even put on masks because everyone had to wear masks at his son. So keep the faith. We put it on his headstone, keep the faith, because he was like, no, John never talked about the word. He never uttered the word dying ever.
Yeah.
Before, we never said dying. Even today I can't say he died. Yes, I'll say he passed. I can't say he died. It's just that whole, I don't know, it's just like, it just seems so permanent, even though I know he's gone, just hearing died. But yeah, so he was, rewind. But yeah, we just sat in the car, he didn't say a word, came down, just sat there, and it was like a gut wrench. I'm like, he's like, and then he started crying also. And so I just remember him saying, I won't see my grandkids grow up. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no. I said, we don't even know if it's a cancer. I'm like, no. We're like, yes. I'm like, let's just keep, no. And and we were just like, I was on my whole story, literally, I just felt like I was on a Save John the whole time, like Save John. Yes, I was like, it got to a point where he's like, DeeDee, he's like, he could feel me even when we got the news. Yeah. And so after the surgery for John, so that was his surgery. The first one was up to July. They opened him up because this was higher up. They thought it was more, it wasn't esophagus. They didn't know because it was that connecting. That's why he kept saying, I feel something here. Yeah. So in the middle of surgery, they stopped it. They said, oh, he's going to be 5-hour surgery. I drove back home. They see John's surgery was in Georgetown. And we did everyone's doing the prayer team. I designed t-shirts. It's not what you're going through. It's how you go through it. I did all these t-shirts, ran around, sold like 150, or gave away 150 t-shirts. We had John's Journey. That was our thing, John's Journey. And so then they didn't go forward. That he needed to find a thoracic surgeon. Mind you, remember this is during the heart of COVID when everyone was afraid to go to the I'd go down 66, not one car on the road. Yeah. Everyone's afraid. Everyone's like, well, you're at the hospital. I'm like, it was a time that and then you're hearing all these reports, people dying. Yeah. So you got a husband dying, and you're fighting for his life, and then you're seeing other people dying from COVID. Right? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then it got to a point where we're like, did he have COVID? I'm like, no, we didn't have COVID. Yeah. Yes. I'm like, he would have survived COVID. I know, literally. Like,
that wasn't the problem.
Yeah, and I didn't, and I never got all that time in hospitals. I never got COVID.
Right. Same.
Yes. It's like.
We were too stressed.
I know, it's literally.
It was a natural barrier.
Like, our immune system was like, we're like, like, we were cursing, we're like a COVID. But yeah, and so then we went back to, he's still doing okay. Then we went back to, then they rescheduled his surgery for July. And I told him, what about the studies? They kept saying about the studies. Mm-hmm. The studies show you do rewind. So we went right into chemo. So he did the chemo. That part sometimes would wipe him out, but he would still fight the chemo. I just remember him running every time his appointments, he would race to a scale. And I'm like, John, he goes, I just can't lose weight. He's like, I can't. So he's like, okay, I haven't lost a lot of weight. So for 3 months of chemo. And so the surgery's in July. July, we had to find a thoracic surgeon. Wind up going back to chemo again. Then October, this is 2020, October, he had the surgery. They moved his stomach. I did all like that, a Vitamix, trying to figure out how he's gonna live. They said the intestine will turn into a stomach and And he did the surgery was well. I remember him buying Chick-fil-A for the whole ward. He says, you need to get back into the routine. Because he had a lot of orthopedic surgery. So he just thought, I can heal through this and work. Yeah, so he's like, I'll get back into the routine. I'll do what they told me to do, start eating the right. And so by November, it was his birthday, and he was able to, we did a Zoom birthday party for him. That was a 57th birthday. And he yeah, he had a piece of, he says, oh, I can actually eat cake. He was like so happy he could have like a piece of his cake. And and by the next, yeah, by December next month, he's like you're talking about Tommy with days, you could say that there's something going on because by December, he's like, maybe I'm overdoing it with the eating. And I said, what does that mean? He's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have that cake. I said, why? I said, what are you feeling? He's like, I don't know. I said, maybe I'm overdoing it. Maybe I'm pushing it too much. I'm like, you're feeling something. Weeks later, maybe a week later, he's like, it's just so weird. I can't swallow. And I said, what do you mean you can't swallow? And he's like, I can't even swallow my saliva. I said, that doesn't make sense. I said, you can't swallow? He's like, I can't swallow. He said, I'm having a hard time swallowing. So I'm calling a surgeon going, something is going on. With, oh, he has scar tissue. John takes some Motrin. I go, what? I'm like, something's going on. So he's like, well, have him come back in. No, I don't see anything. Just take it easy. He's like, so I'm going to the ear, nose, and I'm calling all these doctors. I said, ear, nose, and throat doctor. Why can't he swallow? So I said, John, you cannot not eat for 3 weeks, right? So then that's when we start seeing him lose weight. And so then the ear, nose, and throat doctor said, he's like, I think you need to go to your surgeon. Yeah. He's like, you can't go, there's not a reason you can't swallow. So that he spent Christmas 2020 in the hospital. That was the first Christmas without us. And we did, Zoom with him, with the kids, and then by, I guess, June. I'm trying to rewind. So after that, I'm like, I drop him off for that appointment. He says, bring him in, let's just figure out what's going on. I said, all right, that was the Christmas. I watched John walk in with his backpack. Yeah. That's when I couldn't go in the ER in Georgetown, walk in with his backpack. By the time I picked him up, he couldn't even walk out of the hospital. I'm like, what is going on? I said, I just saw you walk in health with your backpack. In 6 days, you can't walk. And so I just saw the frailness, and also too with wives, you see the sadness in their eyes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, yes, nobody wants to see, they're trying to keep their game face on for us. They're still trying to fight for their families. Yeah. But you see their hope is like
it's going away.
I don't know. Did you notice that, Tommy?
Oh yeah. It's when it disappeared.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. You can see. And so I'm like, just look. I go, gosh. It's like, so that's when I was like, we're gonna prove this wrong, right? Yes. I went through this. We're gonna find it. We're gonna figure it out. Again, remember, he has not been diagnosed for stage 4. They're still trying to figure out why he can't swallow because the doctor. In fact, I was there when he took the stitches out. I have a picture of the surgeon. He's like, yep, you're good. And so then, so I think it's like, so back and forth, trying to find, we did another endoscopy. I'm just ripping and running him all over the place, trying to figure out, like, what is going on with him. So they had a nurse come to the house, and they're like, we're going to have to teach you how to give him a feeding bag. I said, a feeding bag? For what? I said, well, you're not going to do feeding bag. Like, you're going to figure out what's wrong with him. Like, why are we doing feeding bags? So for 3 months, he was on a feeding bag. I learned how to wipe, do all the equipment. They showed me how to do the needle and take the bag out of the refrigerator, make sure it was room temperature. And so I said, I can't, something's going on. He's not living off of some liquid. And I remember John saying, he goes, DeeDee, I think this might be the way of life. I go, no, it's not going to be the way of life. I'm like, you are this healthy man that ran the Army 10-miler, could outrun anyone. And
so he basically was coming to terms, but you weren't there yet.
Yes, okay. And I was like, I was on the Save John. I'm like, no, we're in the DC area, like all these top doctors, like there is no way. Yeah. And so, so that was it. So February 3rd, I said he needs his doctor's like, oh, let's get him a scan just to see what's going on. Maybe there's something else. Let's get a scan, another scan. So so February 3rd, I dropped him on February 3rd. He was supposed to, February 3rd, he went in the hospital and for the scan. I drove home. I had my Peloton was delivered. I remember saying, oh my gosh, I said, how are we going to work this out? My bike's being delivered. So that was my last gift from John. He's like, I want you to get that Peloton. Yeah, so February 3rd, I got my eyebrow, the Fairfax, I had just got my eyebrows done. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. I said, someone had just hit me. No, as I was leaving for Browse. But so I get a call. I see John, my phone ringing. I see John, right? Hubs. And I go, oh my gosh, John, they figured it out. I said, well, how's the scan? They figured it out? I said, what's going on? They're like, oh, it's not John. I said, who is this? Oh, this is Dr. Jackson. I said, where is John? Why are you calling on his cell phone? Like, where is he? We just had a good cry. I said, about what? He says, I figured out why he couldn't swallow all these months. I said, why? He said he has stage 4. I'm like, what? Well, before that, he said, are you by yourself? Can you pull over? I said, you just said he was cancer free. I'm like, what do you mean he has stage 4? I said, what does that mean? And so I said, put John on. And he just wouldn't talk. I just could hear silence. I said, John, are you there? I said, are you there? Yes. I'm like, yeah, I could hear like this crying in his voice. And and so Dr. Jackson's like, I said, so what's next? I said, people live a long time with stage 4. I said, what's next? He says, just love on him. I said, what does that mean? He said, he doesn't have long.
It's okay. And so, and I'll give you